Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of ASKability. ASKability is a series of short video interviews that I do with other disabled people to talk about accommodations, access, and inclusion, and how those things show up for us as disabled people. My name is Nico. I use he, him pronouns. If you're joining us today from the low vision or blind community, I'm a white man with parted blonde hair. I'm wearing rainbow glasses that I got today. I'm seated in front of a purple wall and I'm wearing a purple shirt, kind of like camouflage. I'm honored today to be joined by Al Viscardi. Welcome, Al. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Al Viscardi. I go by the pronouns of he, him. I'm a 40-year-old male with who suffers from chronic pain and neuropathy, carpal tunnel in both hands. And it's a pleasure to be here. I really like being able to speak out and advocate for the fellow disabled community members out there.
I'm honored that you were able to join me, Al. Let's dive right in. My
Sure.
first question is, what access features or tools do you use in daily life, and how do they help you?
For mobility, I have to use a cane.
Okay.
For walking even just short distances from here to the mailbox, I still need my cane. I also need a variety of wrist and knee braces to help keep my wrist and knee stable, as I do have some pretty torn up cartilage in both my knees as well. And I also have to use a back brace to help with my posture and the arthritis in my lower back.
Thank you for telling us about your mobility aids and your accommodation needs. Now, yes. You got a new job recently, is that right?
Yes, I did. I got hired yesterday, actually. This is the first time in a long time that I've actually had a company reach back out to me after sending in my resume to inquire about a job. And I am just tearing up right now. I'm just beyond happy because it's been over a decade since I've last worked, since having become disabled through chronic pain. I suffer with a lot of nerve damage from neuropathy as a complication of type 1 diabetes, which I also wear an insulin pump for. Prior to that, managing the type 1 diabetes was a true nightmare. But it's been the best thing that's happened to me all year so far, and I'm just eager to jump back into the work world. I feel over the last year that I've been managing my pain so much more effective than I have in almost the entire decade prior, due to coming across Tai Chi and learning different stretches and breathing exercises, which I've gone through a whole gauntlet of pain medication, been through physical therapy in and out for years, and it just does not, physical therapy does not have the same effectiveness as I've learned from Tai Chi, which really has made me feel that while I do still struggle with the chronic pain, it is something that is much more manageable for me to be able to enter the work world again. And that's what makes me feel more excited more than anything. And I feel like I'm finally picking up the pieces of my old life and building it into something new.
That's fantastic. I hear that you are hopeful, and I hear that you have found things that manage to work for you to help manage your symptoms. Whenever I talk to non-disabled people, I often get the sense that they think our goal for ourselves is cures or treatments that are 100% effective, when in reality, what's much more likely, I guess, is that we're able to treat our symptoms to the point where we can function, but that's not always the point where we have no symptoms, right?
Indeed, I definitely understand what you're saying there. It's more about every day, it's a different struggle.
Yeah.
Each one of us who goes through a chronic illness or disability, the severity of the symptoms can vary day by day, hour by hour sometimes. And most people think that all we want is to just be rid of this, which would be a wonderful thing if we could cure the world of all of this illness. But in reality, what we really are striving for is just management, tolerance, how to deal with what we have to go through on a day-to-day structure. And if people in society would be able to accommodate us better in those regards, I think it would make a lot more wheels turn and function a lot more smoother between the abled community and the disabled community, to have that better understanding and communication.
Absolutely. That's why we're here, always trying to make progress, if not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Al, tell me, what access features or tools would make the biggest improvement in your life? And if you could talk about how that would help you?
Well, just as a person who, as I mentioned earlier, I've been unemployed for quite a few years, and
Yeah.
throughout the entire decade, I was struggling with the U.S. government trying to win Social Security, which unfortunately never came to fruition. So just one thing that I think every person who particularly has a mobility issue really needs is a form of mobility, is a way to be transported around. I myself, I'm lucky I'm still able to drive, but I don't have a vehicle. So having to hoof it, with my cane to a bus stop to get somewhere to pick something up and back, that wipes me out for the day, even if it only takes an hour. It's something that I definitely need to do, is to have my own vehicle so I could get from one place to another effectively, quickly, and as painless as possible, which is the best part about having that type of transportation. Even if you don't have the ability to drive, just more services, which I believe should be entirely free, for medical transportation for all individuals, because unfortunately some people, they aren't able to make it to their doctor's appointments because of their lack of mobility issues, or because of their lack of mobility, and they aren't able to make it for basic functions such as being able to go out and just shop around, do things on their own and whatnot. So services like that, I think, are very much needed in society. And like I said, for myself, I know having a vehicle is my main thing, because for me, even though, as I mentioned earlier, Tai Chi has helped me so much where I'm able to walk longer distances without the use of a cane, I still feel pain.
Yeah.
And sometimes it still does wipe me out, just walking from here to the mailbox in my apartment complex. So having to drive around or make it to a bus stop and then go to work, hopefully starting soon, I'm praying silently to myself, hoping that that doesn't wipe me out for the day before I even start the work day. So accommodations like that for mobility are really important for all individuals. And thankfully, one upside of the pandemic is the the rise of more telecommunication, the rise of more remote work, and which I just find completely amazing, that so many of us who weren't able to get things done, such as going to a doctor's appointment, be it for physical or mental health, I'm now able to speak to my general physician, my endocrinologist, my psychiatrist, and even therapy sessions, all through the use of Zoom calls. And that makes things so much more easier on a day-to-day basis. And also one other thing that I believe that people need to understand about people who deal with physical um, disabilities, that sometimes we just may need a minute. Please, if we're working retail at you know a grocery store or something, and we're the cashier, just give us a stool. That's all we need for a few minutes, is just to rest our bottoms down and just let our legs relax so that we can have the strength to continue throughout our day. We still want to help out everyone that we can and do what we can to survive, but we need a little help sometimes. So just a little stool would help people. I know it will definitely help me in my upcoming job, which I believe I'm going to be spending a lot more time on my feet than I'd like to.
I see you in that. And you raise a lot of good points about not only the time it takes to complete a task when you live with chronic pain or you have different mobility needs.
Yes.
There's also a cost, which is the energy cost. And you have to keep thinking about that, even as you complete what for able-bodied people would be a very routine task. There's something called spoon theory. So yes, absolutely.
I'm very familiar with the spoon theory.
Excellent, excellent. So for our audience, spoon theory is a widely held theory in the chronic illness and disability community, which postulates that every activity you take, walking downstairs, even walking to another room in your house, takes energy, and you measure that energy by a spoon. You have a set number of spoons each day, and you have to think about how to allocate those spoons, how to allocate your energy so you make it through as many tasks or you last as long as possible without needing to rest. I often also see this misconception that just because disabled people might have different capacities than abled people, that doesn't mean that we have different capabilities. And most often when we say different capabilities, what folks understand that to mean is lesser capabilities. And that's not true. A reduction in your capacity is not a reduction in your capability. We're talented, we're innovative, all that great stuff. Al, tell me, how are disabled people included or excluded in your community? Are there any groups or people advocating for better disability inclusion where you are?
Well, I currently live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and unfortunately, I don't really know much about any advocacy groups for disabled people. And my community, my particular part of town, I do not live in the nicest part of the city. So there really, while I do see a lot of people with mobility issues, and you can only make assumptions on things that they are going through, there really isn't much of a rallying point. It seems to be that a lot of people in society seem to write you off pretty quickly once they see that you have some sort of disability that they feel maybe you cannot keep up, or that maybe you are not up to par, whereas you've just mentioned, and you put so eloquent, I'm so sorry. Let's just say you put very elegantly, which I really liked your wording on how you described how we are very much capable of doing the things we need to do to survive, to make a living, to work for a company. But unfortunately, in my part of town, we seem to be in a void that is just filled with a bunch of, life has gotten us down to the point where all we could do is just take it day by day, surviving the day. Miserable, sad folks like myself sometimes, where in my neighborhood in particularly, like I mentioned, for years I've had to use a cane. I don't need to use it all the time, but when I do have those lack of spoons, and my spoons are gone for the day, but unfortunately I may have to walk next door to pick up some milk from the corner store for my son or something of that nature. And there were times where I would be using my cane and I would be accosted by people coming up to me being curious as to why I'm using it, not just because of my younger age, but because of, are you on pain medication? Are you interested in selling and things of that nature? And it's like, I'm just trying to survive. Why can't we be in this fight together? I wish you would be here to support me and ask me at least, how are you feeling today? You know, I could tell by your face that you're having a high pain day. I hope your day gets better. But no, unfortunately, in my community, my particular sect of Nevada in Las Vegas, I don't see much rallying for community for the disabled folks that are out here. And it's something that I wish I had the spoons to give to others to sort of be in a rallying cry to let us all know that we're in this fight together. Which, for one thing, since I don't see it very much locally, thankfully for programs like your podcast or groups on Twitter or groups on LinkedIn, where nationally, worldwide, also we are able to link up together and discuss what we're going through on a day-to-day basis. You know, a lot of people, if I could go on a quick tangent, a lot of people say that social media has separated so many people throughout the years that, oh, nobody is very personal anymore. Everything is online. Everybody wants to, you know, only talk through the internet and whatnot instead of face to face. Well, fortunately for a lot of us, it's been very therapeutic to be able to reach out to say someone from Australia, from New Zealand, who's going through the same exact thing you are physically or mentally, because I also suffer from quite a few mental health issues. And for us to just sort of convene in this online world is the space that, you know, I'm very happy to be a part of.
I think you raise a lot of good points, and I'm there with you. When I first encountered the internet as a young boy, the common wisdom or the conventional wisdom was that people you meet on the internet are strangers. You don't know who they are. They could be dangerous. They
Very
could be
true.
predators.
Yeah.
When, you know, there's also another side of it, which is that for folks who are disabled, those gathering spaces and those online communities are very, very valuable because they bring people together who might not be local to you, but who have been through what you've been through or are going through it at the same time
Yes,
you are.
it's such a, to me, I believe the world is actually much closer
Yeah.
than we ever have before as a one people.
Mhm.
Throughout the entirety of the world. You can reach out to somebody 3,000, 6,000 miles away, and you can find out that I'm not alone because there's somebody 2,000 miles away that is going through the same exact things that I go through on the
Yeah.
same days, almost day-to-day basis. They face the same struggles that I am. And you may not be able to have found that type of person in your daily life. I mean, for me, if I happen to be out and about and I see a person with an insulin pump or a continuous glucose monitor, I get excited and I'm like, hey, I have one of those too. My name is Alan. It's so nice to meet you. And then you sit there and you bond. And so to have, you know, to go from, you know, the 90s, the mid to late 90s, where the boom of the internet really happened and the stranger danger of the internet, to now it's like, I really need somebody to talk to. Let me go on the internet and search out a community that is there for me and is going through the same things that I am. And that's very, very wonderful thing to me, I believe.
Yeah, it definitely makes a lot of resources more accessible. And it
Yes,
also
that
helps
too.
kind of fix this old adage, which is that talent might be equally distributed, but resources and opportunities are not. And
Mhm.
in that way, I think our online communities, our online gathering spaces can go a long way towards solving that.
Yes,
Thank you, Al.
yes.
That was really prescient of you.
Thank you.
My last question is, how would you specifically benefit from better disability inclusion?
Definitely wouldn't have taken me such a long time to find a job, I'll tell you that. Um, because they didn't even ask me about the gap in my resume yesterday, which I would have to explain. It's because I've been dealing with problems that have kept me disabled and unemployed for such a long time. Better disability inclusion, as I mentioned earlier, it would be, well, this person does have the experience by the words on the paper of what they've done in their past work, but they've also mentioned that they're disabled and they can no longer work in the same field that they were in. Like I used to do a lot of very physical work. I used to be
Really?
a casino security officer right here on the Las Vegas Strip. So I was on my feet all the time. And unfortunately, I had to quit once the nerve damage started getting too much to handle.
Yeah.
And then it just became more and more difficult to find work. As, and unfortunately, as it became more difficult to find work, my health really started to decline much, much more. So, and with the pandemic going on, and as you know, all of these questions tied together so perfectly with the pandemic that's been going on, the rise of social media that we talked about, and the communities that you can find online and spaces together, which I'm grateful that a lot of companies now are also giving free therapy sessions to their employees. They're giving, you know, for your mental health, they're much more understanding of needing a mental health day or a physical day off than in decades prior, centuries prior. So not only that, but with being able to work remotely and with the pandemic and everything that's happened, it's made us realize a lot of our work, excuse me, that there is in society besides having to actually be there face to face in person, such as in a retail environment or hospitality environment, like working at a hotel or casino or food services. You know, we can do a lot of our office work remotely now. We can do a lot of this now, which I feel opens up the door for a lot more people who have been previously unemployed due to disability, because they, like I mentioned earlier, with mobility issues, with lack of transportation, spending your spoons just getting to work means you're not able to work that day,
Yeah.
unfortunately. You know, you're wiped out for the day. But now, you know, if what you have to do is a lot less taxing on your body and your mind, where you just have to get up, make your coffee or tea, and sit down on your computer. That inclusion alone is just completely remarkable to me. And I hope more companies understand and come to learn that there are a lot of great people who are disabled, as you mentioned, that we have capabilities beyond what they see when they look at us, um, and that we can fulfill these roles, you know, through remote work. And that would be the type of inclusion that I really, really advocate for, not just disabled folks, but for anybody who's in need of a job. There's no reason why someone in general has to suffer and say, well, I have to take two and a half hour trip over 3 buses just to get to work because I can't afford a vehicle, when 98% of your job can be done remotely. So that's one thing that I really am happy about, the inclusion that is out there. And now it's rapidly expanding, and it's hitting its peak, and people are saying, well, now the door is wide open to hire much more people of various marginalized backgrounds, from mental health disabilities to physical disabilities to even particularly hard of hearing, or even with eyesight difficulties, that they can do work now at home because the technology is there to help them. And I just think that's a very, very wonderful thing that I'm grateful for. And I do feel if people overlooked the gap in my employment history, and I do have much more skills than just casino security work. And I feel that, when you put in, um, are you disabled or not? Do you have a disability? They tend to just overlook it 1, 2, 3, even if it's a remote position.
Yeah.
But now the facts are out there, the technology is out there, the data has shown a lot of work could be done from home now. So while people are suffering, who financially suffering through, making less than $800, $700 a month and having to live in or share a room with somebody or live with their family still, because that's all they're making from the government, from disability checks, when they can be making 3, 4 times that amount because of their capabilities, and because now the inclusion is out there. I think more companies really need to embrace that and open the door for a wider pool of talent and look beyond what is just, can this person come to the office every day? Can they commute? Can they make it here on time? Now people are able to do so much from home that, please just give us a chance is all I'm asking for society to do when it comes to the disabled community.
Absolutely. You touch on a lot of wonderful points. So it's wonderful to see that a lot of companies are making these targeted hiring pushes for
Yes.
certain disabled people. So Microsoft has committed to hiring more neurodiverse people. Neurodiverse people are those folks with maybe ADHD or who might exist on the autism spectrum, and being able to know that those opportunities are there for them to enter the work world is really great. And what I'm hoping is that more companies will open those gates, not just for some targeted disability groups, but for everyone with a disability.
Yes.
I myself am someone with a very rare disability, so a lot of the disability initiatives that are introduced, whether that's access to higher education or access to the workforce, do tend to so exclude folks with rare disorders. We are coming up on time, but that was my last planned question. Al, as we close, I want to give you a chance to talk about anything that you're proud of recently. Where can people find you online? This is your chance to hype yourself up. This is your soapbox, so take it away.
Thank you. In my personal life, I am quite proud to finally have found employment as of yesterday, not even 24 hours ago. But more so than that, as you just mentioned, neurodiversity, I'm very proud of my son, who he's currently 10 years old. He is on the spectrum. He does have ADHD, as well as I have ADHD. And throughout the years of watching him grow up, I've been able to say, well, that is oddly familiar. I've noticed that I've done a lot of that when I was a child, and I still do these things, but unfortunately, to non-supportive parents, I developed masking without even realizing what it was. So I encourage my son to just be who he is, no matter how he's feeling, just to let it out, and we talk him through it. And one thing that I'm most proud of in life is to see how far he's come in such a short amount of time. I mean, from the pandemic to now, he regressed a lot because he wasn't able to do the online schooling. So we did home schooling with him. And then he was too much for the school to handle once school opened its doors. So I'm proud to say that we are homeschooling him full time, and to see him having regressed and then not just taking one step or two steps, but 3, 4, 5 steps forward in such a small period of time, it really makes me proud of who I am as a father. The one thing I always say is I want my son to look at me with love in his eyes, not the way I looked at my mother with fear in mine. And for all neurodiverse people, all people of a disability of any kind, invisible illness, physical illness, just know that even though you may not feel like you do have the support in front of you, it's out there somewhere. Sometimes we have to look for it. Sometimes it doesn't come to us, unfortunately, like it should. And that's one thing that I'm very proud of, is in the way that I raised my son in comparison to the way my parents raised me. And I am extremely proud to see just how much he's progressed and become his own person more than anything. His own personality has developed far beyond what I could have imagined. And because of that, it's the best part of my life. So thank you very much for this this interview, allowing me to be on your podcast. If anybody would like to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at Viscardi. And that's my primarily, that's my main form of social media that I use. And you can feel free to add me on LinkedIn as a connection as well. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Al, not only for doing the things that you need to do to manage your own life and manage your health, but also being there for your son, for breaking that, what sounds like some generational trauma, and
Yes.
going through some rough stuff yourself and using that to just be better. So,
Yes.
I mean, you might not hear it from your son often or at all, but thank you for what you do. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much, Nico. Just hearing those words from you, just, that makes me tear up. I strive to do my best towards my family more than anything. So
Yeah,
thank you very much. I really appreciate your kind words and support.
of course. All right. Well, thank you for being here, everybody. And we'll end here.